Good morning, ma'am. So, our topic for today is The Necklace, a short story from France. I am Julina Amilin from BE Ed 1. Together with me, Ms. Zadra May Bustamante and Ms. Justine Erica May Saratao. Author's background. Henry Rene Albert Guy de Maupassant was born on August 5, 1850. He was a naturalist and realist French novelist, writer, and poet. He was known to be one of the fathers of modern short story during the 19th century. He was the first son of Laure Poitevin and Gustave de Maupassant, who both belonged to a prosperous bourgeois family, but not got legally separated. His good scholar indulging in poetry and interest fascinated by discipline of psychiatry empower his fiction. Literary background. The Necklace is a short story written by Guy and was initially published in 1884 in the French newspaper. It was known for its Finestrier Prize denouement. It was one of the Maupassant short story that gave him recognition as a master of the genre. This story features a couple who suffered misery because of an expensive jewelry. Story guide. So at the end of this lesson, the student should be evaluate the story's title, The Necklace, discuss the implications of the title of the story, and lastly, evaluate the attitude of the main character towards her misery in the end. The Necklace. She was one of those pretty and charming girls born as though fate has blundered over her into a family of artisans. She had no marriage portion, no expectations, no means of getting known, understood, loved, and wedded by a man of wealth and distinction. And she let herself be married off to a little clerk in the Ministry of Education. Her tastes were simple because she had never been able to afford any other, but she was unhappy as thought she had married beneath her. For women have no castle or class, their beauty, grace, and charm serving them for birth or family. Their natural delicacy, their instinctive elegance, their nimbleness of wit are their only mark of rank, and put the slumberer on a level with the highest lady in the land. She suffered endlessly, feeling herself born for every delicacy and luxury. She suffered from the poorness of her house, from its mean walls, worn chairs, and ugly curtains. All these things of which other women of her class would not even have been aware, tormented and insulted her. The sight of the little Breton girl who came to do work in her little house arose heartbroken, regressed, and hopeless dreams in her mind. She imagined silent at antechambers, heavy with oriental tapestries lit by torches or loafy bronze socket, with two tall footmen in knee breeches sleeping in a large armchairs. Overcome by the heavy warmth of the stove, she imagined vast salons hung in the antique silk, exquisite pieces of furniture supporting priceless ornaments, and small, charming perfume rooms created just for little parties and intimate friends. Men who were famous and sought after, whose homage arose every other woman's envious longings. When she sat down for dinner at round table covered with a 3 days old cloth opposite her husband, who took the cover off the soup tureen, exclaiming delightedly, "Aha! Scotch broth! What could be better?" She imagined delicate meals, gleaming silver, taped rice, peopling the walls with the folk of the past age and strange birds in fairy forests. She imagined delicate food served in marvelous dishes, murmured gallantries, listened to with an inscrutable smile as one trifled with the rosy flesh of throat or wings of asparagus chicken. She had no clothes, no jewels, nothing, and these were the only things she loved. She felt that she was made for them. She had longed so eagerly to charm, to be desired, to be widely attractive and sought after. She had a rich friend, an old school friend whom she refused to visit because she suffered so keenly when she returned home. She would weep whole days with grief, regrets, despair, and misery. One evening, her husband came home with an exultant air, holding a large envelope in his hand. "Here's something for you," he said. Swiftly she tore the paper and drew out a printed card on which were these words: "The Minister of Education and Madame Reponouet request the pleasure of the company of Monsieur and Madame Loisel at the Ministry of Evening on Monday, January the 18th. Instead of being delighted, as her husband hoped, she flung the invitation petulantly across the table, murmuring, "What do you want me to do with this?" "Why, darling, I thought you'd be pleased. You never go out, and this is a great occasion. I had tremendous trouble to get it. Everyone wants one. It's very select, and very few go to clerk. You see all the really big people there." She looked at him out of furious eyes and said impatiently, "And what do you suppose am I to wear at such an affair?" He had not thought about it. He stammered, "Why, the dress you go to the theater in, it looks very nice to me." He stopped, stupefied and utterly at loss when he saw that his wife was beginning to cry. Two large tears ran slowly down from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" he faltered. But with a violent effort she overcame her grief and replied in a calm voice, wiping her wet cheeks, "Nothing. I only haven't the dress, and so I can't go to this party. Give your invitation to some friend of yours whose wife will be turned out better than I shall." He was heartbroken. "Look here, Matilda," he persisted. "What will be the cost of a suitable dress which you could use on other occasions as well? Something very simple." She thought for several seconds, reckoning up prices and also wondering for how large a sum she could ask without bringing upon herself an immediate refusal and an exclamation of horror from the careful-minded clerk. At last she replied, with some hesitation, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could do it on 400 francs." He grew slightly pale, for this was exactly the amount of been saving for a gun, intending to get a little shooting next summer on the plain on Nanterre with some friends who went like shooting there on Sundays. Nevertheless, he said, "Very well, I'll give you 400 francs, but try and get really nice dress with the money." The day of the party drew near. The Madame Loisel seemed sad, uneasy, and anxious. Her dress was ready. However, one evening her husband said to her, "What's the matter with you? You've been very odd for the last 3 days." "I'm utterly miserable at not having any jewels." "Not a single stone to wear," she replied. "I shall look absolutely no one. I would almost rather not to go to the party." "Wear flowers," he said. "They're very smart at this time of the year. For 10 francs you could get 2 or 3 gorgeous roses." She was not convinced. "No, there's nothing so humiliating as looking poor in the middle of a lot of rich women." "How stupid you are!" exclaimed her husband. "Go and see Madame Forestier and ask her to lend you some jewels. You know her quite well enough for that." She uttered a cry of delight. "That's true! I never thought of it." Next day, she went to see her friend and told her her trouble. Madame Forestier went to her dressing table, took up a large box, brought it to Madame Loisel, opened it, and said, "Choose, my dear." First, she saw some bracelets, then pearl necklace, then a Betinian cross in gold and gems of exquisite workmanship. She tried the effect of the jewels before the mirror, hesitating, unable to make up her mind to leave them, to give them up. She kept on asking, "Haven't you anything else?" "Yes, look for yourself. I don't know what would like best." Suddenly, she discovered in a black satin case a superb diamond necklace. Her heart began to beat covetously. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. She fastened it around her neck upon her high dress, and she remained in ecstasy at sight of herself. Then, with hesitation, she asked in anguish, "Could you lend me this, just this alone?" "Yes, of course." She flung herself on her friend's breast, embraced her frenziedly, and went away with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a success. She was the prettiest woman present, elegant, graceful, smiling, and quite above herself with happiness. All the men stared at her, acquired her name, and asked to be introduced to her. All the undersecretaries of state were eager to waltz with her. The minister noticed her. She danced madly, ecstatically drunk with pleasure, with no thought for anything in the triumph of her beauty, in the pride of her success, in a cloud of a happiness made up of this universal homage and admiration. Of the desire she had arose, of the completeness of the victory so dear to her feminine heart. She left about 4 o'clock in the morning. Since midnight, her husband had been dozing in a deserted little room, in company with 3 other men whose wives were having a good time. He drew over her shoulders the garments he had brought for them to go home in, modest everyday clothes, whose poverty clashed with the beauty of the ball dress. She was conscious of this and was anxious to hurry away so that she should not be noticed by the other women putting on their costly furs. Loisel restrained her. "Wait a little. You'll ca- Wait a little. You'll catch a cold in the open. I'm going to fetch a cab." She did not listen to him and rapidly descended the staircase. When they were out of the street, they could not find the cab. They began to look for one, shouting at the drivers whom they saw passing in the distance. They walked down towards the scene, desperate and shivering. At last they found on a quay one of those old night hauling carriages which are only to be seen in Paris after dark. As though they were ashamed of their shabbiness in the daylight, I brought them to their door in the Rue des Martyrs, and sadly they walked up to their own apartment. It was the end for her. As for him, he was thinking that he must be at the office at 10. She took off the garments in which she had wrapped her shoulders so as to see herself in all her glory before the mirror. But suddenly she uttered a cry. The necklace was no longer round her neck. "What's the matter with you?" asked her husband, already half undressed. She turned towards him in the utmost distress. I've I've no longer got Madame." "What? Impossible!" "Forester's necklace." He stuttered with astonishment. They searched in the field of her dress, in the folds of the coat, in the pockets, everywhere. They could not find it. Her husband returned about 7. He had found nothing. He went to the police station, to the newspapers, to offer a reward to the cab companies, everywhere that a ray of hope impelled him. She waited all day long, in the same state of bewilderment in this fearful catastrophe. Loisel came home at night, his face lined and pale. He had discovered nothing. "You must write to your friend," he said, "and tell her that you've broken the clasp of her necklace and are getting it mended. That will give us time to look about us." She wrote at his dictation. By the end of a week, they had lost all hope. Loisel, who had aged 5 years, declared, "We must see about replacing the diamonds." The next day, took the box which had held the necklace and went to the jeweler, whose name was inside. He consulted his books. "It was not who sold this necklace, Madame. I must have merely supplied the clasps." Then they went from jeweler to jeweler, searching for another necklace like the first, consulting their memories, both ill with rumors and anguish of mind. In a shop at the Palais Royal, they found a string of diamonds which seemed to them exactly like the one they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. They were allowed to have it for 36,000. They begged the jeweler not to sell it for 3 days, and they arranged matters, on the understanding that it would be taken back for 34,000 francs if the first one were found before the end of February. Loisel possessed 18,000 francs left to him by his father. He intended to borrow the rest.
He did borrow it, getting 1,000 from one man, 500 from another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. He gave notes of hand, entered into ruinous agreements, did business with users, and the whole tribe of money-lenders. He mortgaged the whole remaining years of his existence with his signature without even knowing it, if he could honor it, and at the agonized face of the future, at the black misery about to fall upon him, at the prospect of every possible physical privation and moral torture, he went to get the new necklace and put down upon the jeweler's counter 36,000 francs. Si Luis ay pumasok sa mga mapanirang kasunduan, nakipagnegosyo sa mga usisero at ang buong tribo ng mga nagpapahiram ng pera. Sinanla niya ang buong natitirang mga taon ng kanyang pag-iral ay nanganganib. When Madame Loisel took back the necklace to Madame Forestier, the latter said to her in a chilly voice, "You ought to have brought it back sooner. I might have needed it." She did not, as her friend had feared, open the case. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she not have taken her for a thief? Madame Loisel came to know the ghastly life of abject poverty. From the very first she played her part heroically. This fearful debt must be paid off. She would pay it. The servant was dismissed. They changed their flat. They took Garrett under the roof. She came to know the heavy work of the house, the hateful duties of the kitchen. She washed the plates, wearing out her pink nails on the coarse pottery and the bottoms of pans. She washed the dirty linen, the dirty shirts and dish clothes, and hung them out to dry on a string every morning. She took the dustbin down into the street and carried up the water, stopping on each landing to get her breath, and clad like a poor woman. She went to the fruiterer, to the grocer, to the butcher, a basket on her arm, haggling, insulted, fighting for every wretched halfpenny of her money. Every month notes had to be paid off. Others renewed time gained. Her husband worked in the evenings at putting straight a merchant's accounts, and often at night he did copy at 2 pence halfpenny a page. And this life lasted 10 years. At the end of 10 years, everything was paid off. Everything, the usurers charges, and the accumulation of superimposed interest. Nalaman niya ang mabibigat. So, si Madame Loisel, nalaman niya ang mabibigat na gawain bahay, ang mapuot ng mga tungkulin ng mga kusina. Nilugasan niya ang mga plato na tinagal ang kanyang kulay rosas na mga kukos sa magaspang palayok at ang ilalim ng mga kawali. At ang kahirapan sa buhay na ito ay tumagal ng 10 taon. Sa pagtatapos ng 10 taon, lahat ay binayaran. Lahat ay nabayaran niya dahil sa kanyang pagsisikap. Madame Lucille looked old now. She had become like other strong, hard, coarse women of poor households. Her hair was baldly done. Her skirts were awry. Her hands were red. She spoke in a shrill voice, and the water slapped all over the floor when she scrubbed it. But sometimes, when her husband was at the office, she sat down by the window and thought of that evening long ago, of the ball at which she had been so beautiful and so much admired. What would have happened if she had never lost those jewels? Who knows? Who knows? How strange life is, how fickle, how little is needed to ruin or to save. One Sunday, as she had gone for a walk along the Champs-Elysees to freshen herself after the labors of the week, she caught sight suddenly of a woman who was taking a child out of a walk. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, still attractive. Madame Loisel was conscious of some emotion. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? So, siya ay naging tulad ng lahat ng ibang pang malakas, mahirap, magaspang na kababaihan ng mahihirap na sambayanan. Ang kanyang buhok ay hindi maganda ang pagkakaayos. Siya ang mga palda ay pilipit. Ang kanyang mga kamay ay pula. Siya ay naging sobrang hirap tignan. Hindi na katulad ng dati na siya ay maraming humanga sa kanya. Maraming naatra. She went up to her. Good morning, Jenny. The other did not recognize her and was surprised at being thus familiarly addressed by a poor woman. But, madame, she stammered, I don't know. You must be making a mistake. No, I am Mathilde Loisel. Her friend uttered a cry. Oh, my poor Mathilde, how you have changed. Yes, I had some hard times since I saw you last, and many sorrows, and all on your account. On my account? How was that? You remember the diamond necklace you lent me for the ball at the ministry? Yes, well, Well, I lost it. How could you? Why, you brought it back. I brought you another one just like it. And for the last 10 years, we have been paying for it. We realized it wasn't easy for us. We had no money. Well, it's paid for at last and I'm glad indeed. So sila ay nagkita ng kanyang kaibigan at siya hindi na-recognize nito kasi malaki ang pinagbago niya. Siya ay naging mukhang dukha na babae na hindi na katulad ng dati. Na siya ay makikita mo talaga sa kanya na marami siyang pera. At yun ay nabago lahat simula nung nawala niya yung kwintas ng kanyang kaibigan. Madame Forrester had halted. You say you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine. Yes, you hadn't noticed it. They were very much alike. And she smiled in proud and innocent happiness. Madame Forrester, deeply moved, took her two hands. Oh, my poor Mathilde. But mine was imitation. It was worth at the very most 500 francs. Ang nawalang brilyante na kwintas pala, peke, at ang mamahaling kwintas pala ay nasa kaibigan niya lang. At ang buong akala niya ay nawala niya yung kwintas ng kaibigan niya yung sobrang mahal at nagbayaran niya ng 10 years pa. Grabe. Ang tagal.